Welcome to Part 2 of the Participant and Host's Guide to Anton Raid. In this part, we will go over Phase 1 of Anton Raid. We will start with the goal of Phase 1, popular raid strategies to use, and then a walkthrough of the dungeons seen in Phase 1, including information you need to know about bosses and mechanics. If you want to skip to a specific part of the video, here is a topic list. Click where you want to go. Timestamps are also available in the description if you are watching on a mobile device. Okay, so we can finally start talking about the raid itself. Each raid has two phases. In between the two phases, there is a resting opportunity that lasts for 10 minutes. We will start by talking about the objective of Phase 1, strategies people often use to clear the phase, and lastly, walk you through all the dungeons that appear in Phase 1. In order to end Phase 1, durable leg A and B must be cleared twice each. The amount of clears needed are represented as big red pips on the dungeons icon in the raid status board. Here is what makes things complicated. In raid, you want to make sure every team has 2 dungeon clears. If you open up Peer Search and press spacebar, you can see all the teams and how many clears they have. If it says 0 out of 2 or 1 out of 2, it will show as red text. If that team has 2 or higher out of 2, it will show as green text. If a team does not have 2 out of 2 clears when both legs are cleared twice, the phase will end and they will not get rewards. It's the leader's responsibility to make sure everyone gets their rewards. In summary, your goal is to send out teams to certain dungeons, make sure each dungeon is covered, or at least make sure the teams can get 2 clears before any timers run out, and then, finally, clear the last durable leg dungeon. The phase will end as soon as both leg A and leg B are cleared twice. Failing Phase 1 will happen if any dungeon's timer hits 0. A dungeon and its timer will both go away once the dungeon gets cleared. Smoke, Naval, and both Battlegrounds will have timers, and will respawn once cleared. The time until they respawn is represented by this blue bar. You need to make sure your teams are either spread out enough, covering all timers, or are fast enough to clear both legs twice before any timer resets. If you let a dungeon timer reach 0 seconds, durable legs A and B will get all their pips back, and you'll need to clear them again. If black smoke gets ignored when it respawns, smoke will start to fill all of the rooms in all of the other dungeons, forcing a hard timer on the people running them. If the smoke fills the room, that team will wipe. If Battlegrounds resets, then the entire raid gets forced back to needing to clear black smoke again. Now, to talk about strategies that raid leaders use. There are lots, but here are the 3 most seen ones. 16-man foreleg, also known as drone, 20-man foreleg, and lastly, the quote, 2016 style method. It doesn't matter which strategy you, as a raid leader, decide to use. What matters is that the raid gets done. However, keep in mind that no single individual is carrying an entire raid. It's not possible for that to happen. So, you need to use the raid strategy that best works with the people in your raid. The easiest way to determine this is by looking at the gear of your teams. If every team has what it takes to demolish Anton raid no problem, then you're ready to tackle a 16-man foreleg. The benefits of this is that it is a much faster way to clear raid. Also, without a 5th team, you have less people to worry about. The 16-man foreleg is a very straightforward approach to Anton raid. It uses 4 teams of 4, making 16 people. First, each team clears black smoke. That's 1 clear for each team already. Then, each team goes to a durable leg dungeon, typically P1 and P2 on leg A, and P3 and P4 on leg B. If everyone clears it no problem, that's both legs cleared in a very short time span. The phase gets cleared, and no one has to wait for other teams to get clears, because all the leg pips are being handled at the same time. This is why 16-man foreleg is the fastest method right now. However, due to its nature, it is also the riskiest. You have a lot less room for error because while everyone is doing durable leg, the other dungeons are ticking down. If people mess up on zombies or any of the bosses, the raid will more than certainly reset the phase, so only consider this strategy if your teams are very well geared. However, if your raid only has a few geared people, you might want to spread out those geared people onto each team. If you feel confident enough in those teams, you can send them out to do a 20-man foreleg. Almost the same thing, except with 20 people, you, of course, have an extra team of 4. The difference here is that you need 4 teams to clear black smoke, and then have 1 sit out and wait for Battlegrounds to spawn. The team that sits out is either a predetermined one that the raid leader designates, or the team that can't clear black smoke fast enough, typically being called last to clear black smoke gets double BG. The left out team needs to clear both Shaking Battleground A and B. Those will be that team's 2 clears. Meanwhile, the other 4 teams are doing each leg just like in the 16-man strategy. Except this time, 1 team should be designated as holding the clear. What this means is, 1 team needs to have the job of holding off on killing Agnes. Why? Because if all the legs are cleared before the team doing Battlegrounds finished getting their clears, they miss out on rewards. So, the team holding the clear needs to keep an eye on raid chat. Once everyone has 2 out of 2 clears, you now have the green light to kill Agnes. Likewise, it's up to the leftover teams to report as soon as possible whenever they have the clears. Time is of the essence, because while yes, a lot of dungeons are being done, Naval and Smoke will still be counting down, since there isn't a team clearing them, so you need to act fast. If you don't feel confident enough in your Battlegrounds team, and they're taking too long, you can start sending teams that are done with their durable leg to go to either Naval or Smoke to buy the raid more time. But unless your raid has people brand new to raid, they shouldn't have a problem with Battlegrounds. That leaves the 20-man strategy being a pretty easy and safe strategy for those who are well geared and have a good understanding of Anton raid already. It's not as fast as 16-man, and there are still more things that can go wrong compared to it, but it is still one of the more commonly used raid strategies. The last strategy, and probably the least used and least popular, is what some refer to as the 2016 method. This strategy is for leaders who know they have weak teams, or people that need to be carried. This strategy takes the longest of the ones mentioned here, but it's also the safest and has the least room for complications. The strategy goes as follows. You decide on 2 teams to do durable leg twice, then 2 more teams to cover Battleground A and B. The last team does Naval, then waits for a Battleground to respawn. If this is all done correctly, each team will have 2 clears, just like with the 20-man foreleg strategy. 1 team on durable leg needs to hold off on killing the boss. Once everyone is 2 out of 2 clears, the team holding can kill Agnes and finish the last durable leg clear, thus ending Phase 1. The logic for this strategy is that you put all the geared people on 2 teams. Those 2 teams will do durable leg A and B twice each. Since Battlegrounds is fairly easy, the undergeared teams can handle them no problem, and, assuming they also cleared black smoke, Battlegrounds will be their second clear. The Naval team here will have a very specific party composition, since the raid leader should have composed a team of classes built for Naval, with knowledge of the mechanics and least reliance on cube skills. Those classes will handle Naval no problem, and then that team will wait in town until Battlegrounds spawns again, so they can go do their second dungeon. The reason this raid strategy is the safest is because almost all the dungeons are being covered, since everyone is much more spread out, instead of being focused mostly on durable leg. The once dangerous timer of Naval is now part of the plan, and gets cleared before it becomes a problem. This is why the 2016 method is the longest, but also the safest. Now to move on to the dungeons themselves. There are 4 dungeons in Phase 1, Black Smoke, Battleground, Durable Leg, and Naval. The first thing the raid will need to do is clear Black Smoke 4 times. The ideal situation is that most or all of your teams clear Smoke. This way most of your raid will already have 1 out of 2 clears. Entering Black Smoke, you will see monsters that deal pretty decent damage. Take them out and use your buffs. Decide on an element that your party has synergy with, or the one that the strongest player deals, and enter the next room. Here is Black Smoke's mini-boss, Tog. Tog has 2 main mechanics that you need to pay attention to: the elemental orbs that float up to him, and the big red orb he spawns. If you see the big red orb, destroy it. If you do not, your team will suffer smoke filling the room. Take too long, and the smoke will wipe the party. The other mechanic is the elemental orbs. Each color represents an element. Red is fire, blue is water, purple is shadow, and yellow is light. Tog is immune to all damage until you do this mechanic correctly. Whatever element you want Tog to be weakest to, you let him take that orb. For example, if you want shadow damage, let him take purple, and destroy the other orbs before they touch him. The last orb Tog eats is the one that will affect him. Tog will then change color, showing what element he is now weak to. If he is red, he is weak to fire. If he is dark blue, he is weak to water. If he is white, he is weak to light. If he is black, he is weak to shadow. Tog also has a huge tornado attack that happens upon 2 of his attack animations, whenever he summons the big red ball or fires out exploding fire orbs. Tog will follow up by jumping into the sky and summoning giant tornadoes to follow players in your party. The targeted players will have a red effect on them. The ideal strategy is to watch him for when he does those 2 moves so you can react fast enough. When you see them, run to the bottom center or top center of the map, then dash to the sides. This is the easiest way to not only dodge the tornadoes, but to also make sure nobody else gets hurt. One last attack you should look out for is when he has a circle below him. He will try to pull players toward him to absorb HP and heal. Once he is weak to the element your party agrees to, you can beat him up until he finally falls. The next room is more monsters. Dispose of them quickly without taking too much damage. The last room is Nurbe, the boss of Black Smoke. He has 3 important things to look out for. While taking damage, he will have a circle appear under his feet. Once the circle lights up and finishes its animation, he will shock and damage players in the circle. Hurt players will have a shield around them. That, if combined with touching Nurbe's blue shield, will instantly kill that player. Once you see the circle under him, back off before it activates. Once the green circle below him fades away, you can then attack him again. Aside from teleporting and punching, he will teleport to the center of the room and do one of 2 moves. If he says, lightning will hit everything, 4 bubbles on the 4 corners of the room will spawn. All players need to hide in their own bubble to avoid death by lightning. If 2 players go in the same bubble, the bubble will pop and be useless. So try to plan beforehand where to go if you can. If he says, let there be light, then he's doing what most people call the orbs mechanic. Orbs will then spawn around him and will start floating to him. Players need to position themselves to stand in front of these orbs, or else Nurbe will collect them and heal for a lot of HP. The pattern is diagonal orbs and then cardinal directions. Players need to stand on 4 corners and then rotate clockwise to properly collect them all. It's actually pretty easy if you coordinate this with your party. Default placements for players are displayed here. But if you keep Nurbe juggled and you avoid his circle attack, he most likely won't do any other attacks. Next dungeon is called Shaking Battlegrounds. This is the easiest of the Phase 1 dungeons, and probably the fastest way a team can get a clear. If you have a weak team that needs a clear, simply put them in Battlegrounds A or B. There is no difference between A and B. In Battlegrounds, there are 2 bosses, left and right. The right side boss can simply be held and damaged down until death. Make sure the super hold is long reaching, because if you get too close without touching him, he will activate his vacuum grab, during which he is completely invincible. If you take too long to kill him, he activates his mechanic that summons lightning down on the room, so make sure to kill him quickly. This is purely a DPS check type of boss. The left side boss begins by jumping to the sky, making 5 pillars fall onto where you are standing. All members scatter, walk forward, let the pillars fall behind you, and then on the 4th or 5th pillar, start running. The boss will then try to land on a random player. If he lands on you, he will grab you for a large amount of damage, apply you with a confusion debuff, as well as spawn a clone out of you. Aside this, he has long-range projectiles that fire only in front of him. Simply hold him and damage him until his death. After these 2 bosses are cleared, enter the last room and wait for the cutscene to finish. Typically, if the rest of the raid is waiting on your clear, you will type drilling to the raid, letting everyone know you're about to clear your Battlegrounds dungeon. Remember though, the clear doesn't actually happen until you see it say dungeon clear. In other words, not until the cutscene finishes. So don't tell people you cleared until it says you did. If you do, legs might get finished before you got your second clear, leaving you with no rewards for that phase. This is, of course, assuming you didn't already have 2 or more clears. One of the other dungeons is Durable Leg A or B. They are both the same dungeon. This is probably the hardest dungeon in Phase 1, so be sure to place your most geared and able players here. Room 1 is empty. Use your swap set buffs and prepare as necessary. The next room is the dreadful pub killer room, the zombies room. The goal is always the same in this room. Knock at least 1 zombie into each of the 4 circles on the floor. The boss cannot be damaged until you do so. You can choose beforehand if you want to assign people to circles in the room or not. The timer you have to get the zombies into place is the bar above the boss's head. Once that blue bar fills up, he will light up all 4 circles, giving you an additional 5 seconds to fix or reposition zombies into the circles. The circles that are shooting up a pillar of light are the ones that need a zombie on them. It should be noted that the blue bar above the boss's head is mimicked below the screen as well. The zombies will slowly follow you and try to grab you. If they grab you, they will not let go, so someone will need to help you out by hitting them off you. If your HP falls below 50%, you turn into a zombie. If you get turned into one, you can sacrifice yourself to the light pillar and count towards clearing the mechanic. Once you place all the zombies correctly, and the blue bar fills properly, he will then light up the room white and you will hear a gentle jingle. You are now able to attack him for a few seconds. Make sure you kill him or else you will repeat the mechanic. Additionally, watch out for lava puddles on the floor in this room. They will hit for massive damage if you step in them. After that, the next room has monsters in it. Once you kill them, you can then enter the next mini-boss room. It is very important that this boss is held, otherwise a lot of time and HP gets wasted. However, you cannot hold him right away. You will need to wait until the bar above his head is about 1/3 full, then you are able to hold him. I recommend using holds that are active for long periods of time to get this to work flawlessly. Once you hold him, keep holding him in DPS until he is dead. If you fail to hold him, however, the attacks he does force you to constantly keep moving. Aside from this, he summons a clone that also jumps around. Despite the clone, simply only damage and hold the real one. He should be killed as soon as possible. Next is the boss room, Agnes. The most ideal fight you could have is to kill the 2 adds that spawn first, then run up to her, hold her, and kill her. However, in case that doesn't happen, here are her mechanics. When she summons 4 clones, hit the one with the purple sword. If you don't, or if you hit the wrong one, she does room-wide damage. If you do it correctly, she will start moving again, and you can hit her. The eye above her head is the other important bit. If it is open, do not hit her. If you hit her, the damage will reflect to the party. If the eye is closed, you may hit her. The blue bar above her head is how you know when it swaps. Once the bar fills, the eye will toggle between open and closed. Please note that the blue bar is also mimicked on the bottom of the screen. Naval is the last and most unique dungeon in Phase 1. In the first room, buff up and use whatever cube skills you can. Then step on in. You will see a giant cannon and a meter with 3 pips. You need to protect the cannon from monsters that will flood from the left side. Every 50 seconds, a big green golem called a guardian will spawn. Once killed, they drop a light orb. Pick up the orb and place it on one of the 3 pads you see along the deck of the ship. Each orb placed fills up a pip. Once 3 pips are achieved, the cannon will fire and you win. However, there are anti-cube skill mechanics here, meaning skills of yours that use up either clear cube fragments are now suddenly dangerous. Once you enter the second room, look at the clock. Specifically, the last 2 digits. As I said, guardians spawn every 50 seconds, so look at the last 2 digits and add 10 seconds to it. For example, if you went in when it says 45 seconds left, you then post 3 numbers with 10 adding on to it each time. So in this case, 55, 5, and 15. Those are the times when guardians will spawn. Once the guardians appear on screen, the screen will flash red for a few moments. Cube skills that are used during this flash will teleport monsters to the cannon directly, and that's really dangerous. So if the cannon loses all of its HP, you fail the dungeon. So look at the numbers your team posted, and hold back from using cube skills at those times. After Phase 1 of Anton Raid, you will then be told that you have 10 minutes to prepare for the next plan of action. Please, tell your party to use this time wisely. Either tell them to report any team issues, lag, or beef that people have. Solve the issues now, rather than later. If you are a participant, if you want to use the bathroom, get a snack, or tend to real-life situations, then now is the time to do so. If you have a problem with your team, whether it be damage output, a person who doesn't know how to raid, or someone lagging really bad, now is the time to speak up. Tell your raid leader whatever you need to before he or she decides to start Phase 2.